This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
A man's been arrested in the killing of the UnitedHealthcare CEO.
We believe we have a strong person of interest.
I'm Haya Panjwani.
What's next in Syria? It may depend on what the rebel alliance now controlling much of the country decides. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
A Manhattan jury's cleared Daniel Penny of any criminal wrongdoing in the chokehold death of a subway rider. I'm Jackie Quinn.
The U.S. High Court denying several cases this week. I'm Clayton Neville.
It's one of the most important factors in how Americans feel they're doing economically, and your gas pump has just posted a notable milestone. I'm Peter Schacknow.
President-elect Donald Trump's pick for intelligence chief, Tulsi Gabbard, is facing fresh scrutiny on Capitol Hill. Norman Hall, Washington.
All ahead on America in the Morning. The manhunt that started on the streets of Midtown Manhattan ended at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports on a person of interest now in custody in connection to the killing of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
The suspect was in a McDonald's and was recognized by an employee who then called local police. Responding officers questioned the suspect, who was acting suspiciously and was carrying multiple fraudulent IDs as well as a U.S. passport.
A man's been arrested in the killing of the UnitedHealthcare CEO.
If you see something, say something, but most importantly, do something. And they did. And because of that, we believe we have a strong person of interest to deal with this case.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams at a news conference. Officials say police have arrested a 26-year-old man with a weapon consistent with the gun used in the killing of the UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Thompson died in an ambush as he walked from his hotel to the company's annual investor conference across the street. NYPD Chief of Detectives Joseph Kenny described the suspect.
He has been identified as Luigi Nicholas Mangione. He's a male, 26 years old. He was born and raised in Maryland. We know he has ties to San Francisco, California, and his last known address was Honolulu, Hawaii. He has no prior arrest history in New York.
Mangione was taken into custody after police got a tip that he had been spotted at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania.
Upon further investigation, officers recovered a firearm on his person, as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder. They also recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual.
I'm Haya Panjwani.
The Middle East nation of Syria is facing a seismic turning point after rebels in less than 2 weeks were able to overthrow the more than 50-year rule of the al-Assad family. But there are important and strategic concerns. As Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports, Israel is using the moment to attack Syrian government chemical facilities so weapons of mass destruction can't fall into the wrong hands. The United States is bombing ISIS targets, and Syrian citizens are wondering what comes next.
I think the entire international community was surprised to see that the opposition forces moved as quickly as they did. And I think everybody expected to see a much more stiff resistance from Assad's forces.
What's next in Syria? It may depend on what the rebel alliance now controlling much of the country decides. So far, the group led by a former top al-Qaeda militant has said it wants representative government with power sharing and religious tolerance. Mideast expert Hayat Hayat at London's Chatham House says the international community must move fast.
That sort of positive atmosphere is crucial, but might not last long.
Here in Washington, there are welcome statements, but
ISIS will try to use this period to reestablish its capabilities, create safe havens. As our precision strikes over the weekend demonstrate, we are determined not to let that happen. And will continue to protect our personnel against any threats from any quarter. The real measure of their commitment is not just what they say, but what they do.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken.
This moment presents a historic opportunity, but it also carries considerable risks. History shows how quickly moments of promise can descend into conflict and violence.
Blinken says the U.S. has clear interests in Syria, and top officials are fanning out across the Mideast to talk about how America can back the Syrian people, while the military has moved to ensure ISIS cannot take advantage.
As this unfolds, there's a potential that elements in the area, such as ISIS, could try to take advantage of this opportunity and regain capability.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
When we return on America in the Morning, former Marine learns his fate in a murder trial after these messages. This is America in the Morning. AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy is at the national map with today's forecast.
With the first storm having moved off the northeast coast this morning, it'll be turning quieter in the northeast with spotty drizzle and flurries, maybe even some freezing drizzle. However, we are now focusing on the next part of the storm, rounding the bend centered around the southeast to start the day. And this storm will lift northward today into tonight, and the cold front associated with this feature will produce showers and thunderstorms through the southeastern U.S. from southeast Louisiana into southern Mississippi, into Alabama, Georgia, and the Florida Panhandle. A few of these storms will be capable of producing significant winds as well as flash flooding, and this can spread into the western and central Carolinas tonight. On the northern side of the low pressure area, rain will spread out ahead of it through the eastern parts of Tennessee into Kentucky and the middle Atlantic, and then continue northward towards southern New England tonight. Meanwhile, we're looking at an incredible push of Arctic air diving southward through the Plain States today. This will be centered around North Dakota before shifting into South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa late in the day and at night. There will be some snow showers forming along this boundary, and a few heavier squalls are also possible, and this could lead to reduced visibility with brief whiteout conditions. The rest of the Plain States will have quieter weather with some amount of sunshine, though it will remain seasonably chilly with highs in the 30s and 40s from Nebraska to Illinois, and only warm to the low 70s in parts of South Texas, which is near or just below the historical average. That's the weather across America. Little Rock, Arkansas will have a return of sunshine today with a high up to 55. Dover, Delaware will have plenty of clouds today and some light rain developing late in the day and a high of 57. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
I'm John Trout. Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Former Marine Daniel Penny's acquittal in the New York City subway chokehold death of a fellow train passenger is sparking both applause and outrage. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports.
A Manhattan jury's cleared Daniel Penny of any criminal wrongdoing in the chokehold death of a subway rider who was agitated and scaring passengers. 26-year-old Marine veteran Daniel Penny, portrayed as a hero by his supporters, smiled briefly when the not guilty verdict was read. The jury cleared him of a criminally negligent homicide charge in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely. But outside, anger raged. Neely's father, Andre Zachary.
I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this.
His lawyer says it's unfair.
Jordan came on that subway car. The first thing he asked for was food, and he was killed.
America has no moral code.
The co-founder of Black Lives Matter New York, Shavana Newsom, calls for protests.
It was foolish of us to think that a black man would get justice in the system designed to keep him oppressed.
I'm Jackie Quinn.
The U.S. Supreme Court declines to take up a number of cases, including transgender issues and affirmative action. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The U.S. High Court rejected an appeal this week from Wisconsin parents who tried to challenge a school district's guidance for supporting transgender students. Parents argued the school district's policy violates constitutional protections for parental rights and for religious freedom. The justices left in place an appellate ruling dismissing the parents' lawsuit. In a separate case, Supreme Court justices refused to intervene in a Hawaii lawsuit challenging state gun laws. Christopher Wilson argued that his arrest for carrying a pistol violated his Second Amendment rights. The state court upheld charges citing against Wilson's interpretation of gun carry rights in Boston public in that state. And in a case with implications in other suits nationwide, the Supreme Court declined to make a decision on whether 3 elite Boston public schools violated the Constitution with a zip code-based admissions policy intended to ensure racial diversity. The arguments came more than a year after a landmark ruling ended affirmative action at universities and prompted race-neutral policies at schools nationwide. I'm Clayton Neville.
In sports, Monday Night Football, the Cincinnati Bengals defeat the Dallas Cowboys 27-20. Among the stories we're covering next, Apple's iPhone AI and holiday shopping bargains. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. We begin this Tuesday at the gas pump with CNBC's Peter Schacknow.
Your neighborhood gas station definitely has an influence, and perhaps an outsized one, on how consumers feel the economy is treating them. If that's the case, they may be feeling somewhat encouraged today. The average price of gasoline has fallen below $3 a gallon for the first time in over 3 years. That's according to market tracker GasBuddy, with the average price of $2.97 per gallon representing the most affordable gasoline outside of the pandemic period since 2015. And GasBuddy says it could drop another 10 to 15 cents by Christmas. That extra money in your pocket notwithstanding, it's the bargains that are attracting holiday shoppers, according to veteran retail analyst Dana Telsey.
You have companies like Kohl's, which has also had to be a bit more promotional. And where things are working is, we've heard it over and over, the discounters, the off-pricers.
A major ad agency has one of its rivals on its holiday shopping list. Omnicom is buying Interpublic Group in a $13 billion stock swap deal that will create the world's largest ad agency. And one deal that could happen, but hasn't yet, could involve Oreo cookie and Ritz cracker maker Mondelez buying chocolate maker Hershey. Bloomberg reports that Mondelez is considering making an offer. Hershey said it does not comment on market rumors and speculation. Apple is near the release of new software that will integrate popular artificial intelligence interface ChatGPT into its Siri personal assistant. That may be a boon for iPhone users, but Tom Forte, senior consumer internet analyst at Maxim Group, says investors should not look at Apple stock as an AI play.
With the iPhone 16 coming out in September, and now the software for AI coming out in December, makes Apple not the best play when it comes to AI. I much prefer Amazon because I think Amazon stands to benefit to the extent that they can lower their costs at the fulfillment center level by increasing automation.
However, investors are looking at Apple and Amazon. They're doing so with a smile. Both hit all-time highs in yesterday's trading. The Consumer Price Index is out Wednesday, with the Producer Price Index out Thursday, and some economists are worried by recent signs that there's upward pressure on inflation. But Stephanie Link, chief investment strategist at Hightower, has a more positive view of higher inflation.
If inflation is a little bit higher than expected, it's because growth is a little bit higher than expected. We grew 3.4% GDP last year. We are on track now in this quarter at 3.3%. The consumer has actually stayed in and hung in remarkably well.
That being said, economists do think the CPI will show a year-over-year increase of 2.7%, which is well over the Fed's 2% target.
CNBC's Peter Schacknow. Spending an eternity in prison for a so-called religious leader. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Thanks for listening and welcome back. This is America in the Morning. One of Donald Trump's choices for an important intelligence post is facing questions about prior comments she made regarding Syria. Correspondent Norman Hall reports.
President-elect Donald Trump's pick for intelligence chief, Tulsi Gabbard, is facing fresh scrutiny on Capitol Hill about her proximity to Russian ally Syria amid the sudden collapse of that country's hardline ruler. Gabbard ignored shouted questions about her 2017 visit to Syria as she ducked into one of several private meetings with senators. Nearly 100 former senior U.S. diplomats and intelligence and national security officials have urged Senate leaders to schedule a closed-door hearing to allow for a full review of the government's files on Gabbard. Meanwhile, the Democrat-turned-Republican Army National Reserve Lieutenant Colonel delivered a statement pledging her support for Trump's approach to a more limited U.S. military footprint overseas. Norman Hall, Washington.
A man who claimed to be a religious prophet will spend decades behind bars for sex crimes. Lisa Dwyer reports.
A polygamous leader in Arizona has been sentenced to 50 years in prison. Samuel Bateman has pleaded guilty to claiming more than 20 spiritual wives, including 10 underage girls. He acknowledged coercing girls as young as 9 years old to submit to criminal sex acts with him and other adults. Bateman declared himself a prophet of a small offshoot of the sect once led by Warren Jeffs, who led the fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Bateman admitted he schemed for years to transport girls across state lines for his sex crimes and later to kidnap some of them from protective custody. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, December 10th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
The United States responding to the aftermath of a fallen regime in Syria. I'm Clayton Neville.
Members of the January 6th House Committee fire back at Donald Trump's call for them to face prison time. I'm Jeff McKay.
After just 10 months, Laura Trump says she's stepping down as the co-chair of the Republican National Committee. Jennifer King, Washington.
Health insurance costs have outpaced inflation for years, and Americans are frustrated. I'm Sue Aller.
Boeing has laid off hundreds of additional employees in Washington State and California. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
If you're planning holiday travel, you'll be happy to hear this. Gas prices have been going down. I'm Rita Foley.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. When it comes to AI and weather, that means Arctic air. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
We are looking at a strong push of Arctic air diving southward through the Plain States today. This will be centered around North Dakota before shifting into South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa late in the day and at night. There will be some snow showers forming along this boundary with a few heavier squalls, and this can reduce visibility with brief whiteout conditions while also putting down a small accumulation. This system is helping drive the next storm that will be developing in the southeast today, sort of kicking it into high gear. This southeast storm will be lifting northward today into tonight. The cold front associated with this feature will produce some showers and thunderstorms through the southeastern U.S. from southeast Louisiana into southern Mississippi, Alabama, and then continuing into Georgia and the Florida Panhandle. A few of these storms will be capable of producing significant winds as well as flash flooding, and this can spread into the western and central Carolinas tonight. On the northern side of the low pressure area, it will spread out some rain ahead of it through the eastern parts of Tennessee into Kentucky in the middle Atlantic, and then continue northward into southern New England tonight. The rest of the plain states in between these two features, it will be a quieter weather day with some amount of sunshine. It will remain seasonably chilly with highs in the 30s and 40s from Nebraska to Illinois, and only warm into the low 70s in parts of South Texas, near the historical average for this time of year. And with such a dominant feature in the central and eastern U.S., the western areas will be quieter today with some valley fog to start and then some sunshine filling in. However, there are some Santa Ana winds in Southern California, which could produce gusts as high as 60 miles per hour, and this could also cause some damage as well as an increased risk for wildfire spread. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. The United States is keeping a very watchful eye on the events in Syria, pledging vigilance and making sure the terror group ISIS does not take advantage of the recent fall of the al-Assad regime and cause more instability in the region. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The impacts of the fall of the Bashar al-Assad regime in Syria are known around the world. United States Republican Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell.
Bashar al-Assad is an agent of Iran, an ally of Russia, and a butcher whose hands are stained with so much innocent blood that the death toll defies precise counting.
Countries in the Middle East encouraged by the news that al-Assad allegedly fled to Russia, but there is some concern about a potential boost in fighting amid rebel groups in the region.
The United States will continue to support Syria's neighbors, including Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, and Israel, should any threats arise from within Syria during this period of transition. We will also maintain our mission against ISIS and protect our forces against any threats.
State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller told reporters that the U.S. has carried out strikes in recent days as part of that mission.
And you have seen the Department of Defense carry out military strikes in support of this mission in the past 2 days. We will not allow ISIS to use this moment to regroup and relaunch terrorist attacks that threaten the interests of the United States.
Earlier this week, U.S. warplanes struck 75 ISIS targets in Syria. Focus now on captive journalist Austin Tice, who's been locked up in Syria for more than a decade.
There are intensive efforts underway by the United States to find Austin Tice and bring him home to his family. Our special envoy for hostage affairs, Roger Carstens, is in Beirut, and we are pressing all parties in the region to support this effort. We encourage anyone who has information about Austin's whereabouts to contact the FBI immediately. They have made clear that they will provide a reward to information that leads to being able to return him home.
As the Biden administration has a close eye and continued communication on the ground in the Middle East, President-elect Trump is urging the U.S. to stay out of the conflict in Syria. I'm Clayton Neville.
Former Wyoming Congresswoman Liz Cheney is speaking out after President-elect Donald Trump floated the idea of possible jail time for her and other members of the January 6th House Select Committee. America in the Morning's Jeff McKay has that story.
The former representative from Wyoming and daughter of former Vice President Dick Cheney lambasted Donald Trump, saying in a response to Fox News Digital, quote, Donald Trump attempted to overturn the 2020 presidential election and seize power. He mobilized an angry mob and sent them to the United States Capitol, where they attacked police officers, invaded the building, and halted the official counting of electoral votes. Trump watched on television as police officers were brutally beaten, refusing for hours to tell the mob to leave, and then added, this is a continuation of his assault on the rule of law. On X, now Senator Adam Schiff wrote, quote, when he tried to overturn the 2020 election, the January 6th committee stood in defense of our democracy. Threats to jail will not deter us. This came after Trump spoke on NBC's Meet the Press and said he plans to issue pardons for all those arrested for their roles in the riot at the U.S. Capitol.
And Cheney was behind it, and so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee. For what they did, honestly, they should go to jail.
So you think Liz Cheney should go to jail?
For what they did.
Everyone on the committee, you think?
I think everybody anybody that voted in favor.
Are you going to direct your FBI director and your attorney general to send them to jail?
No, not at all. I think that they'll have to look at that.
The committee was composed of 7 Democrats and 2 Republican lawmakers, Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, both who are no longer in office. Kinzinger also responded to Trump's comments speaking on CNN.
The executive branch can't go after the legislative branch because we embarrassed him. That's not a sin. That's not against the law. Ultimately, when we talked about him throwing his ketchup and hamburger against the wall, there's nothing illegal about that. And most of the people that testified were actually his Republicans, fellow Republicans that went up and spoke in him. He's not going to come after us, and I'm not worried about it at all, in the least.
Trump has made claims that the January 6th committee deleted records and hid evidence, claims that Cheney called, quote, ridiculous and false. I'm Jeff McKay in Washington.
Laura Trump announced she's leaving as co-head of the Republican National Committee. Jennifer King reports the wife of Donald Trump's son, Eric Trump, has been floated as a possible replacement for Secretary of State nominee and current Florida Senator Marco Rubio.
I could continue to stay at the RNC, but I do think I completed what I came to the RNC to do.
After just 10 months, Lara Trump says she's stepping down as the co-chair of the Republican National Committee and is considering a number of potential options as her father-in-law prepares to return to the White House.
Our winter meeting coming up just before the inauguration. It's the week before, and they will be able to vote someone else into my position.
In an AP interview, she says she would 100% consider it if asked to replace Florida Senator Marco Rubio.
My name has been floated as a potential replacement for Marco Rubio, assuming he's confirmed as Secretary of State. Obviously, that is ultimately up to Governor DeSantis.
She said, I intended to do what has been done, and thanked co-chair Michael Whatley, another key player in the Republicans' successful press to retake the White House.
So we said, look, we're going to really narrow down our focus. And by doing that, hopefully we can be successful.
The 42-year-old, who's married to Trump's middle son, Eric, says she doesn't see any Trump family members taking positions in the White House this time around, but she does expect the Republican Party to be more unified. Jennifer King, Washington.
When our show continues, UnitedHealthcare CEO's murder highlights symptoms of higher costs. And strike over, now comes layoffs. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. With the arrest of the suspected shooter of the UnitedHealthcare CEO, it comes as Americans are paying more than ever for health insurance. As Sue Aller reports, people are outraged at both the events surrounding the CEO's shooting, but also the American healthcare industry as a whole.
With the arrest of Luigi Mangione, the suspected shooter of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson has ignited an outpouring of anger from Americans struggling to receive and pay for medical care. This TikTok viewer voiced her frustrations.
And we're fighting with the insurance company over her dialysis to keep her alive.
Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna told ABC News this week that he also has had an insurance claim denied.
I, as a congressperson, had UnitedHealthcare deny a prescription for a nasal $100 pump spray.
Khanna is fighting for Medicare for all.
I mean, people are getting denied on cancer treatment. And my view is very simple. Why can't we have a rule that if a doctor prescribes something and if Medicare, traditional Medicare, is going to cover it, then private insurance companies should be forced to cover it?
Insurance companies denied claims for various reasons, some of which include paperwork errors, medical necessity, cost control, coverage issues, and pre-authorization issues. Every patient has the right to appeal the decision and provide additional information to support their claim. I'm Sue Aller.
Reuters reports that plane maker Boeing will restart their 737 MAX production a month after a crippling 7-week strike. However, their workforce will now be much smaller. Lisa Dwyer reports that Boeing will lay off hundreds of workers on the West Coast.
Boeing has laid off hundreds of additional employees in Washington state and California as part of planned cuts that will eventually reduce the company's workforce by 17,000. In October, Boeing said it would reduce its workforce by 10% as it tries to recover from financial and regulatory troubles and a strike by its machinists. Boeing says the strike did not cause the layoffs and that layoffs are a result of overstaffing. Boeing has been in financial trouble since 2 crashes of its 737 MAX jetliner killed 346 people in 2018 and 2019. The company's fortunes and reputation took an additional hit when a panel blew off the fuselage of an Alaska Airlines plane in January. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Gas prices continue to fall nationwide, now reaching a low for 2024. Correspondent Rita Foley reports.
The national average is $3.01 a gallon today, down 3 cents in a week, down about 8 cents in a month. And a year ago, gas was $3.16 a gallon, about 15 cents more than it is now. AAA says the highest prices are on the West Coast. If you're traveling in California, you'll pay about $4.36 a gallon on average. Texas is among the places with the cheapest gas. It's $2.60 a gallon there. It's even cheaper in neighboring Oklahoma, $2.49 a gallon. But in the Northeast, buckle up. It's a pricier than average $3.26 a gallon in Pennsylvania, $3.14 in New York. I'm Rita Foley.
A total of 32 states now have gas prices averaging below $3 a gallon. East of the Mississippi River, Illinois, New York, Pennsylvania, and Florida have the highest gas prices. America in the Morning continues. A moderate earthquake shook parts of Nevada and California. The U.S. Geological Survey measured the tremor at 5.8, centered near Carson City. It was felt in northern and central California, but was quickly followed by a series of 10 aftershocks. There were no reports of injuries or major damage. The quake came about 24 hours after a stronger 6.3 earthquake jolted Alaska's Aleutian Islands. Our Chuck Palm is in with today's tech news and a report on the world's largest manufacturer of commercial and consumer-grade drones, whose products could be banned in the U.S. due to Chinese labor law violations.
Congress is considering a ban on Chinese-made drones from being sold in the United States. DJI, the world's largest drone manufacturer, sells more than half of all U.S. commercial drones and said if no agency completes the study, that they would be automatically added to the Federal Communications Commission's covered list. The 1,800-page bill says that a national security agency must determine within 1 year if drones from DJI or Autel Robotics pose an unacceptable national security risk. DJI said in a statement that that would mean preventing them from launching new products in the U.S. market simply because no agency has chosen to take on the work of studying their products. They further stated that they have proactively submitted their products for regular independent scrutiny and have expanded their range of built-in user privacy controls. Additionally, DJI told Reuters in October that Customs and Border Protection is stopping imports of some DJI drones and other products due to the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. For more, follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
With a look at Tuesday sports, here's our Robert Workman.
Monday Night Football, the Bengals got by the Cowboys 27-20, the close game turning just after the 2-minute warning. Dallas blocked a Cincinnati punt, but botched the recovery. That gave the Bengals one last chance, and Joe Burrow hit Jamar Chase for a 40-yard touchdown.
That was crazy. I don't know. We could have used that luck all year, but it was nice to get one tonight.
Burrow passed for 369 yards and 3 touchdowns in all. 2 of them went to Chase. Week 15 kicks off Thursday night with an NFC West clash between the Rams and the 49ers. College football, Heisman Trophy finalists announced last night. 2 of them are in the college football playoff. Dillon Gabriel, who quarterbacks number 1 Oregon, and running back Austin Genty of 3-seed Boise State, who's just 131 yards behind Barry Sanders' single-season rushing record. Also on their way to New York for Saturday night ceremony, Colorado two-way star Travis Hunter and Miami quarterback Cam Ward. NHL, the Red Wings rallied past the Sabres 6-5 in a shootout to snap a 5-game losing streak. Blackhawks snap a 5-game skid as they nipped the Rangers 2-1, and the Canadiens down the Ducks 3-2 in a shootout. Just one game in the NBA last night, the Knicks repelled the Raptors 113-108. Karl Anthony Towns led the way with 24 points and 15 rebounds. Tennessee is the new number 1 in college basketball. After a topsy-turvy week for the top 10, the Volunteers are one of just 3 unbeaten teams in the top 25 this week. Auburn holds on to second despite taking its first loss, and Iowa State zoomed up to third in both the writers' and coaches' surveys. 2 losses by Kansas dropped last week's number 1 Jayhawks team down to 10th. That's Tuesday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. When we return on America in the Morning, rapper Jay-Z calls out his accuser, and mystery in the skies over the Garden State. Those stories and more when America in the Morning returns after these messages. Back now on America in the Morning, a lawyer for rapper and music producer Jay-Z wants a woman accusing him of rape to reveal her identity. With details, here's entertainment correspondent Margie Zaraletta.
Jay-Z attorney Alex Spiro says in a filing in Manhattan federal court, a woman who says Jay-Z raped her as a 13-year-old has not provided evidence to justify staying anonymous. He's arguing her lawsuit should be dismissed. The woman had sued musician Sean Diddy Combs, accusing him of rape at a party following the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards. She amended the lawsuit to accuse Jay-Z of rape as well. Jay-Z says in a statement the allegation is heinous and part of an extortion attempt. I'm Margie Zaraletta.
The FBI has been called in to investigate after dozens of unidentified drone sightings were made across New Jersey, including one that overflew the area around Donald Trump's Bedminster estate, another that forced a medevac helicopter to take evasive action. With What's Up, here's correspondent Norman Hall.
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy says dozens of drones have been spotted across the state in recent weeks, including near sensitive sites such as a military research facility. Murphy says there doesn't appear to be a public safety concern. The FBI has been investigating reports about several mysterious nighttime drone flights that started occurring last month across central New Jersey and has asked the public for help. It's unclear who is piloting the drones and why, but federal and state officials have repeatedly stressed that there is no known threat to public safety. I'm Norman Hall.
We're not too far away from hearing an actor or actress thank the Academy. Yes, it's award season. This time it's the Golden Globes. Here's correspondent Kevin Carr.
If you're not willing to accept, I don't think it's worth talking.
Leading the pack was Netflix's Amelia Perez, a musical crime thriller about a cartel leader transitioning into a woman. The film earned 10 nominations, including Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, Best Director, and acting noms for Zoe Saldana, Selena Gomez, and Carla Sofia Gascon.
Welcome to America.
A24's The Brutalist, about a Hungarian architect at odds with an art patron, took 7 nominations, including Best Picture Drama, and acting noms for stars Adrian Brody, Felicity Jones, and Guy Pearce.
Well, Cardinal Lawrence, it seems the responsibility for the conclave falls upon you.
Focus Features' Vatican drama Conclave received 6 nominations, including Best Picture Drama and acting noms for Ralph Fiennes and Isabella Rossellini.
There's been a slight misuse of the substance.
But it was the Demi Moore-led body horror film The Substance that raised eyebrows, nominated for Best Picture, Musical or Comedy, with acting noms for Moore and Margaret Qualley.
What if I wanted to open a restaurant?
For the small screen, award darling The Bear received 5 nominations, including the disputed Best Picture, Musical or Comedy category, plus acting noms for its ensemble cast. Hulu's Only Murders in the Building and Shogun each got 4 nominations, while other series like Netflix's Nobody Wants This and Baby Reindeer got 3. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, December 10th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.